to any of the neighbors, but I just wondered if they've had anything strange happen. So, but once you get past that cemetery and go down that bottom, Lemoyne River's down there, and then you got a lot of timber, a lot of ground. We just figured they probably run that Lemoyne River.
I don't know, it just comes to me too, but I don't know whether it matters in the Bigfoot arena, whether they like to locate themselves closer to where natural springs are at, and there's something like that close by.
Bigger timber, you know. But.
So, if you mentioned to me previously that you had not mentioned this in the Riverlands podcast, but you had experienced something from California you wanted to talk about?
I got my sister, and she has 2 sons and a daughter that live out there, but they're in their late 30s now. She lives in Oregon. I'd went out there just for vacation. Her youngest son was graduating high school, and they wanted me to come out to that. My wife couldn't get time off for work, so they flew me out there. And she says, "Have you ever seen the Redwoods?" I said, "Well, supposedly I did when I was small, but I don't remember." She says, "Well, let's go for a car ride today." It was an all-day drive. We got into Northern California, into the Redwoods, and they are some big trees. You seen them?
No, I have not.
But
I have.
I couldn't really tell you where we were at without a map, but we got down in there a little ways, and you know, there's a road going through there, and there was like a shop and a place. There was a creek going through there and a bridge and camping ground, but we went on and got down in there farther. We come to this parking spot where you could just park and get out and look at the trees. So me and my sister got out of the car, and my niece, she goes, "I'm going to go back to the store and get us some water." So she took off. So we wasn't too far from this parking area, just out in the middle of nowhere. And I don't think there was any other cars there. And we walked, I don't know, a ways, quarter of a mile, just looking on a trail. And then we were coming back, and she was on my left, and I just happened to look up, and this is probably 25 feet in the air on a big flat branch. There sat, I would say it was a male Sasquatch. He was the black one. Had black hair. I could only see him from the chest up. Okay. But it looked like he was almost kind of sitting on a nest, something that was just really comfortable. But he had the black hair, the black leather skin, and the big black eyes. Well, we didn't have our cameras. I didn't even say anything to my sister because I didn't want her freaking out. So I stood there and I watched him for probably 30 seconds. And she was getting far enough ahead of me that I thought, well, I better go. And you know, when I started walking, I couldn't find him again. And we had to walk pretty close to him to get back to the parking lot before my niece was coming back to get us. So,
what year was that again?
Probably 16 or 17. I know we were out there 3 years in a row, so it would have been one of them.
Okay.
And then I was contacted by another guy. PS used to have, I don't know if they call them a factory, a power station in Merodosha. Well, they closed it down. And with a lot of the guys that was close to retirement, they retired. They bought them out so they could go ahead and retire and be done. Well, this would be third hand. My dad worked there, his buddy was there, and his other buddy was the same age. Now, I don't know if my dad knows this third guy or not, but he'd bought a bunch of ground south of Merodosha on the Illinois River, and it butted up against the river. And this was 3 or 4 years ago. They had the river come up and they had a flood. And they would be down there on the ground, and they'd have rocks thrown at them and sticks thrown at them, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. They thought somebody was sneaking on their ground, so they started setting up trail cameras. And they got some of the best pictures I've ever seen. There's a big gray one probably the big dominant male, and there's a black one. And I think he's got like over 200 pictures. I mean, some of the best pictures you ever seen. And I had copies of them, 2 of them, but when I changed phones, I lost them. And I reached out to this guy to see if we could investigate it, and I got nowhere. I can't even remember the guy's name, but I guess they refused to even go on their ground, last I heard. They were just scared to even go down there. They bought it to hunt on, and they refused to hunt on, even go down there. But I know a guy that knows this guy's son, and when I see him again, I'm going to ask him who it was. So we might be able to look him up on Facebook and find him.
If you can, I'd appreciate that if there's
Down
any
by
contact.
the Bluffs area.
I'd love to see those pictures.
I've tried. I tried.
So clearly they're not interested in trying to sell or monetize it. They're keeping it to themselves.
Yeah. Because of the second-hand guy, I told him, hook us up. But I never heard a word back. So.
I'm sorry. Did you say the guy that you know knows them? Or is their son?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
I know. Do you know Rich Mueller?
No.
He's a car salesman at Gentry's. For years he played softball.
Okay.
He knows this guy's son.
Okay.
But I haven't. I stopped in to talk to Rich, but he's went to Kunis. And I haven't been to Kunis to talk to him.
Well, do you know where the property's located?